worshipper, lover of living. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, 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 whoever you are, condemned worshipper, lover of living. Ours is no caravan of living. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, cover you are, condemned worshipper, lover of living. Ours is no caravan of living. Come yet again, come.
Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today.
Hello, I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and we're glad you're here and that you've made Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation a part of this day in your spiritual life. Whether you are here for the first time or you've been tuning in or coming to Beacon in Flagstaff for many years, we welcome you. Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation sits at the base of the San Francisco Peaks on homelands sacred to Native Americans throughout the region. We honor their past, present, and future generations who have lived here for millennia and will forever call this place home. I am so proud of what our congregation stands for and how we have remained connected and committed during the pandemic. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are always welcome, and we will also marry you here most happily. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints to our door, and here we trust that you will find a common ground for meaningful community and spiritual growth, and for relevant religious exploration in a framework that is unique and has very flexible boundaries. Membership in our congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love, the search for truth, and the pursuit of justice. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, please join me in the response words you will see on your screen. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our inner connection. Our mission and covenant express our values and our vision of ourselves as a gathered community in the world. Please join me in saying the mission and covenant. You will see the words on your screen. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought and belief and builds a just, peaceful, and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and kindness. Thus do we covenant. For our opening words today, we have a poem by Billy Collins entitled "Old Man Eating Alone in a Chinese Restaurant." He writes, "I am glad I resisted the temptation, if it was a temptation when I was young, to write a poem about an old man eating alone at a corner table in a Chinese restaurant. I would have gotten it all wrong, thinking, the poor bastard, not a friend in the world, and with only a book for a companion, he'll probably pay the bill out of a change purse. So glad I waited all these decades to record how hot and sour the hot and sour soup is here at Chang's this afternoon, and how cold the Chinese beer is in the frosted glass. And my book, Jose Saramaga's Blindness, as it turns out, is so absorbing that I look up from its escalating horror only when I am stunned by one of his gleaming sentences. And I should mention the light that falls through the big windows this time of day, italicizing everything it touches, the plates and teapots, the immaculate tablecloths, as well as the soft brown hair of the waitress in the white blouse and short black skirt, the one who is smiling now as she bears a cup of rice and shredded beef with garlic to my favorite table in the corner. Now is the time in our service when you're invited to share a personal joy or sorrow in the virtual supportive presence of this beloved community. You'll have some silence in which to ponder and reflect your joys and sorrows, and then there will be a video with some meditative breathing. And at that point, I invite you into some intentional breath. 4 beats in slowly through your nose, 5 or 6 beats out slowly through your mouth, in a steady stream, creating spaciousness from the crown of your head, down your body, to your feet that are rooted to the ground. Remember that your breath is always with you, and through intentional breathing, it brings emotional, spiritual, and psychological first aid. As we go into this quiet meditative time, let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. And may we have hope. We've carried this stone with us all through the pandemic. May we hold on to hope for ourselves, for our families, for our community, for the planet. Our reading today is a piece called Truck Driver by the Reverend Gordon McKeeman. He writes, "The other day I was driving on an expressway. These days, expressway driving seems like a frantic experience. Near one of the exit ramps, one of the highway denizens, a behemoth semi, had pulled over onto the berm. The driver had emerged and was gathering some wild plants along the side of the road. In that moment, another stereotype bit the dust. I know what truck drivers are like. They are strong, burly masters of profanity, rootless gypsies who have neither homes nor families. They care not a whit for sunsets, mountain peaks, seashores, or wildflowers. But now I have seen one take the time to stop and look carefully at the splendor by the roadside. I've been by that very spot so many times. Not once did I take the time or trouble to stop and look at the miracle of leaf and flower. Goodbye, shattered image. I think I shall not miss you at all. You were, it should be said, quite convenient. You allowed me the luxury of not having to think of truck drivers as real people, as varied as the diversity of wildflowers by the road. Stereotypical thinking does not impart solidarity or dimensionality to an object or person. Quite the opposite. It dispenses with the details and eliminates the idiosyncrasies of individuals by making them members of a class of things, all of which have identical characteristics. Well, all truck drivers do have a common characteristic. They do drive trucks. That may exhaust the list of characteristics they share. There's one of them, at least, who notices what is growing by the side of the road. Quite a feat, actually, at 70 miles an hour. As the number of people inhabiting our little globe grows, so I suppose will the temptation to group people into classes, applying labels to them, and the mistake of the label mistake the label for a far more complex reality. Perhaps the image of the truck driver stopping to gather wildflowers by the side of the road can be a reminder of how perilous, how depersonalizing, how diminishing such stereotypes can be. I've had a number of stereotypes passed on me. As I pause to think about them, I like my own name better than any of them. I have a hunch that others like their names better as well, far better than a label, and far, far better than a number. The struggle to maintain a sense of importance to each other may be long and often difficult. The challenge is quite extraordinary, but so important, even on an ordinary day.
Apartment in the city. Me and Loretta like living there. Well, it'd been years since the kids had grown a life of their own and left us alone. John and Linda live in Omaha, and Joe is somewhere on the road. We lost Davy in the Korean War, and I still don't know what for. Don't matter anymore. You know that old trees just grow stronger, and old rivers grow wilder every day. Old people just grow lonesome, waiting for someone to say hello in there. Me and Loretta, we don't talk much more. She sits and stares through the back door screen, and all the news just repeats itself like some forgotten dream that we've both seen. Someday I'll go and call up Rudy. We worked together at the factory. What could I say if he asked what's new? Nothing, what's with you? Nothing much to do. You know that old trees just grow stronger, and old rivers grow wilder every day. Old people just grow lonesome, waiting for someone to say hello in there. So if you're walking down the street sometime, spot some hollow ancient eyes, please don't just pass them by and stare as if you didn't care. Say hello in there.
My sermon today is entitled Unjudge Someone. Just earlier this week, I returned from a wonderful visit in Barcelona, Spain, with my son, my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter, Ruby. It's such a gorgeous, walkable city, and we meandered through many plazas, down ancient streets, and along the seaside. On one of my outings, a sign caught my eye in front of one of Barcelona's stunning buildings. It read, Biblioteca Humana Hoy Dia, Human Library Today. Below the headline were photos of several individuals who would be the libros, or books of the day, human books that could be checked out by the folks who signed up in advance for the event. I remembered seeing a notice for a human library event in Sedona, just down the canyon, and reminded myself that I wanted to try it when I got back to Arizona. The motto of the human library movement is Unjudge Someone. The organization, which is now international, began in Copenhagen in the spring of 2000 by 4 colleagues. The original event was open for 8 hours a day for 4 days, and it featured over 50 different human books that could be checked out. This broad selection provided readers with ample choice to challenge their stereotypes and unconscious biases. More than 1,000 readers checked out these books for safe one-on-one encounters, leaving the founders stunned, but gratified by the impact of their idea. In the section of their website called Books, they ask, "Who do you think I am?" The stories include, among others, a man with ADHD and one who is brain damaged, an alcoholic, a teen with autism, a woman who is bipolar, a guy who is body mod extreme with many tattoos and piercings, a convert, someone who is homeless, and another who is HIV positive. Another has been molested. One is polyamorous, and another is a refugee. There's a soldier, an unemployed man, and a young mother. Let's watch a brief video that the Human Library has provided on YouTube.
Understanding the complexity of humans, understanding how we're all different is possibly one of the greatest challenges we face as a species.
All of us have unconscious bias and all of us judge. We'll judge something based on that little information that we have. It's about navigating the dangers of diversity. Things that we don't understand, things that are foreign to us, strange. So we're not saying don't judge, actually we're saying come and unjudge. The Human Library is a safe space where people that volunteer to be an open book for you, the reader, have personal experiences and answer your questions. What all our books have in common is they are able to challenge the stereotypes, help you hear from the horse's mouth. What's it like to be a refugee? What's it like to live life as transgender? What's it like to be a police officer? Where do you go at night when you're homeless? How do you live a life with HIV?
I've been a part of this for 6 months. I've met a lot of people, amazing people.
It's a very great opportunity to reflect about my condition. It's something that I can use to help others.
Keeping an open mind towards the people that look different from us until we get to know them is healthy. By reading about people you agree or disagree with, by getting insight to the way they think and why, can better put my puzzle together. I saw how strong and powerful the library is. It's the only place that's so inclusive that everybody's welcome. It's a perfect wrapping around a safe space to have a very, very personal conversation with a stranger and get to know about them.
I don't want to just be known as the guy who's schizophrenic, but then again, I don't want to hide it either. I don't want to, make it a big forbidden thing we can't talk about.
A reading is really a conversation where one person volunteered to be an open book and share their experiences, and it's up to you as a reader to engage and get those questions in there, because if you don't, the conversation might just dry out.
Actually being here and speaking to the person was so interesting, and we got to ask him whatever we wanted to ask.
I get questions from the reader, so I get a new perspective on my story as well.
Just show up and try to do your best, and if you have any questions, just ask.
I live with schizophrenia, but that does not mean that I live with some kind of label that defines me. I'm still me, and the Human Library has helped me realize that and actualize that.
It's about giving a voice to those groups in the community that rarely have a voice. They're being excluded because they're different. We need to stop fearing that difference and make it a resource for us. Strength can come from our diversity, but only if we embrace it.
It's fascinating and humbling to face our own unconscious biases and stereotypes as we move through our daily lives and encounters. The pharmacy tech at CVS, the woman pushing her shopping cart down the street, the kids carrying skateboards under their arms downtown, the Native American man waiting in line at the family food center. Whether it is intentional or not, we are sometimes guilty of further othering the other out of fear or disdain, hubris, judgment, or ignorance. Maybe it's an old person or a young person or someone we think who's a Trumpster or Antifa. It's projection. Billy Collins admits as much in his poem, Old Man Eating Alone in a Chinese Restaurant, when he writes, I would have gotten it all wrong, thinking the poor bastard, not a friend in the world, and with only a book for a companion. He'll probably pay the bill out of a change purse. Or consider my colleague, the Reverend Gordon McKeeman's experience on the highway, when he discovered that the truck driver pulled over on the berm was not necessarily the burly master of profanity or rootless gypsy he imagined, but rather a lover of wildflowers, picking a handful by the side of the road. Goodbye, shattered image, he proclaims. And he admits his stereotype is convenient. Stereotypes always are. Professor Kathy Small had some preconceived notions about Ross Moore, the man in the dog park, before she began to know him as a human being and a friend, rather than perceive him through what she calls the well-worn grooves of American narratives about homelessness. She befriended him and they ended up writing a book together, this book, The Man in the Dog Park. And in it, she writes, there is something to be said about the purposeful effort to step outside of your own reality, or perhaps to allow other realities into your own. Kathy tells us that this willingness has been life-altering for her. She admits that when she first met Ross, it was with a profound distrust and fear. And she astutely points out, she realized that she is part of a culture, part of a particular culture, and would have been, in her words, a stunningly remarkable person to respond otherwise. The worlds we enter offer us a window into our own, as Kathy Small puts it. Like others who cross cultures or boundaries of our upbringing, we find in ourselves not only a greater responsiveness to the human condition, but also the delight of living in a world less alien, less hostile, less unloving than it felt before. And that is why the human library movement is now a global phenomenon. It offers just this window into another person's identity beyond our embedded beliefs. It creates the chance to be unjudged and to unjudge someone else. What a gift. The 2022 Sedona dates for their human library events will be posted soon. I'm in. If you're interested, go to their website, sedonahumanlibrary.org. So as I've said, unjudging is different than judging. One could say that the judging has to precede the unjudging. Whether we realize it or not, we're always making convenient assessments of others, aren't we? Why do we judge? And how does judgment actually dim our own light? In an article for Psychology Today, the therapist Dana Herron notes that hating or judging others is at odds with loving ourselves. She writes, people judge others to avoid reckoning with potential feelings of inferiority or shame, but judging can never give people what they truly need, connection and self-love. Yet they keep doing it consciously or unconsciously. Often, at least here in America, we're programmed through family and broader culture, media and advertising to see the world in a rank order, in a hierarchical fashion. When two people encounter one another, one is better, one is less. Any metric will do. Wealth, status, body weight, beauty, height, intelligence, popularity. Who do you think I am? And who do I think you are in relationship to those metrics? It's insidious. Even if we are striving to be intentionally non-judgmental. Real strength and self-esteem, Darren reminds us, is not about denigrating other people or putting them in boxes. It's about knowing who you are, what you value, and how you want to live that truth. It's about knowing that you can afford to be generous because you are enough and there is plenty of care and affirmation to go around. Being kind and unjudging others will never diminish you. We bake a bigger pie and we all win. And who doesn't love pie? One could venture that most of the human books who volunteer to be checked out would savor a slice. If we tune into our bodies and our emotions, we know how lousy it actually feels to judge others, to be bitter, to be angry, to be self-righteous. We're not in alignment with our highest selves, and we are engaging in a cheap, dirty trick to protect ourselves in some way or bolster what is actually a shabby sense of self-worth. Darren brings it home for us saying, so you'll have to judge yet another person and another to keep this charade going. You'll have to find drug addicts, criminals, terrible mothers, homeless men, and fat people to keep your head above water with floaties instead of learning how to swim. Continuing her metaphor here, human libraries are the swim classes that offer a path to breaking this cycle and learning how to unjudge in the first place, to stop the process of judging before it begins, othering, judging. If you can't attend a human library event, you can certainly follow its principles. Self-interrogate about your unconscious biases, condescending stereotypes, and snap judgments. We all have them. If we were to make a concerted effort to check in with ourselves throughout the day and see how often our minds are in judging mode, sometimes with an accompanying anger or self-righteous indignation, we might be shocked at just how much space that is taking up. And if we're honest, we would have to admit that all of this negative judgment of ourselves and others is not adding to the quality of our lives. It is not adding to our peace of mind. Be curious, be open. Don't judge a book by its cover. It's quite likely that those of us gathered here today on YouTube as a congregation of humans have judged one another at some point and judged me too as your minister, just like Gordon McKeeman says has happened to him, because it is a common occupational hazard for us. While I was rifling around in my resources for my service today, I came across a poem I saved years ago, read it again, and it caused me to both nod and chuckle. It's timeless and as fitting a place to end as any, I reckon. The author is John Gifford Fowler, British cleric who lived from 1899 to 1975. The poem is entitled, Judge Not the Preacher. He laments, if it was 20 minutes of pure loss, if you can think of neither text nor gloss and have forgotten what the subject was, judge not the preacher. If you came hoping even for a crumb to ease your need and departed with none, if she just might as well have been stone dumb, judge not the preacher. Perhaps she prayed for light and no spark came, held out her candle and it took no flame. Perhaps she sought your heart and missed her aim. Judge not the preacher. She is a person like you, so do not boast that both are dull today. She is, at most, occasional mouthpiece for the Holy Ghost. Judge not the preacher. So may it be for all of us, unjudged and not judging. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not the circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. feet, sing eye to eye with laughter and elation.
The spirit of generosity and gratitude flows through Beacon. Every week, we give and receive an offering to support Beacon, our programs, our building, our staff, and to support community partners in Flagstaff. So I invite you now to make an offering. You can do that two ways. You can go to our website, www.beaconuu.com, find the donate button, and make a secure online donation through the Venco application. And if you use this method, we ask that you use a bank account rather than a debit card to save us on some fees. Or you can send us a check with offering or donation in the note to Beacon at 510 North LaRue Street, Flagstaff, Arizona, 86001. Either way, we are so grateful for your support, particularly at this challenging time.
Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. We're all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. We're all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Our benediction today is a prayer poem by Jan Richardson. It's called Rend Your Heart. To receive this blessing, all you have to do is let your heart break. Let it crack open, let it fall apart, so you can see in its secret chambers the hidden spaces where you have hesitated to go. Your entire life is here, inscribed whole upon your heart's walls. Every path taken or left behind, every face you turned toward or turned away, every word spoken in love or in rage, every line of your life you would prefer to leave in shadow, every story that shimmers with treasures known and those you have yet to find. It could take you days to wander these rooms, 40 at least. And so let this be a time for wandering, for trusting the breaking, for tracing the rupture that will return you to the one who waits, who watches, who works within the rending to make your heart whole. And finally, at the end of our service, when we meet here in person, we face one another and we hold hands, or perhaps more recently, we don't hold hands. And we feel the love and the strength and the connection of the community. We do invite you to join us for worship at 510 North LaRue Street. Currently, we are asking that people who attend wear masks and sanitize their hands, not have any COVID symptoms, and show us some documentation of vaccination. This is not meant to be a judgment of people's personal health decisions, but rather an institutional policy to protect the community as a whole. So until we see you, whether here or in person on North LaRue Street, let us remember that whether we are together or apart, we are Beacon, always connected. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.
Thank you very much for listening. Bob Frankie's Thanksgiving Eve. so easy to think of the times gone by. It's a hard thing to think of the times to come, and the grace to accept your time as a gift is a gift that is given to some. What can you do but work all your days? Let your dreams bind your work to your play. What can you do with each moment of your life but love till you've loved them away? Sorrows enough for the whole world's end. There are no guarantees but the grave, and it's life that I live and this time I spend is a treasure too precious to save. What can you do but work all your days? Let your dreams bind your work to their play. And what can you do with these moments of your life but love till you've loved them away?